Erev Tov Atay. We're speaking about Parashat Zachor. Almost finished with that. I don't want to talk too much about it. We have to talk about the Purim also. But just to remind you one thing here, which is that, as we said, the Parashat Zachor, really, the women should come also. They should try to come if they can. If they have nothing else, bothering them, there's no other schedule problem, whatever. They should try to come if they can. If they can't, okay, what can I do, right? There's two opinions about that, if they're obligated to come or not. But the thing is, that there's a nice question. One rabbi asked me a few years ago, which is, as we said, right, that you're not allowed to take out the Sefer Torah if there's no minyan to read anything, to read nothing. You need a minyan for that. So here also, you need a minyan to read Parashat Zachor. That's clear. But the thing is, what about if you have a minyan of women, right, and not men? There's no 10 men, but there's 10 women there, Is that good enough? Usually, right, a woman does not combine into a minyan because, they're not obligated to come to minyan. They're not a part of the minyan. So if they come, on Shabbat or they come on Yom Chol, we cannot count them in the minyan. No such a thing like that. But for this mitzvah, for Parashat Zachor, like, we can count them in the minyan. So what does that mean? If we have 10 women, right, and they need to hear the Parashat Zachor, we can take out the Sefer Torah for them. Even though that really, right, they're not usually combining in the minyan. But here, that since they're obligated to hear Parashat Zachor, they can also be counted in the minyan for this parashat. So what does that mean? Practically speaking, as we said, right, that if they didn't come in the morning, the women, to hear the Parashat Zachor, and they want to do a special reading before mincha, a lot of minyanim do this. A lot of keilot, they do this. They have a special reading. The Baal Koreh reads it one more time. So how does he do it? How do you do it? Right, what you do is, he's right. Oh, David, Chacham, David. So he's right. That's exactly what I was going to say, right? That when you take out the Sefer Torah for the ladies, to read the Parashat Zachor, you don't make a bracha, right? Baruch Atah Hashem noten haTorah, because you already read the Torah in the morning, So there is no mitzvah here to say the bracha, since it's only for the women, So if you're reading it for the women, what you do is, no bracha, just, you say, Zachor, right? Like you start, right? Like this, and do, you don't make a bracha for this, because the women, they're not really a part of that blessing, the noten Torah that we do for the reading of the Torah. That's how we do it, if we have to do it for the ladies, later on, right? Like that. That's the way it's done. But you do need a minyan, at least 10 ladies you need, if not 10 men, right? You gotta have somebody, 10 minyan. But if you have just 1 or 2, 3 people, and they tell you, I didn't hear Parashat Zachor. What can we do for you? I'm sorry, but, as we already mentioned, right? If you can't find a minyan, for Parashat Zachor, and you lost the mitzvah, so what do? In Parashat Ki Tetzeh, right? In the summer, before Rosh Hashanah, they're going to read it again, So you come for that reading, in the morning, and you tell the Baal Koreh, right? Have me in mind, for Parashat Zachor, mitzvah deoraita, from the Torah, and he's going to have you in mind when he reads it, and this way you can be Yotzei Dechovah. So if you missed it now, before Purim, do it over there in the summer, right? That's your makeup. This is how you do it, right? To make it up. Okay, very good. So let's move on. Let's start talking a little bit about Purim also. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to Purim, right? So the first thing I want to tell you, right, the main mitzvah for Purim, even though there's many mitzvot, but the main mitzvah is to hear the Megillah. They say in the Talmud, that Rabbi Akiva, he only left the Bet HaMidrash, he was learning all day and night, non-stop, right? The only time that he would leave the Bet HaMidrash, the learning, was for 2 mitzvot, right? One was for the Megillah, he would leave, and one was for Haggadah, Pesach, to read the Haggadah. So meaning what? He would go home, and read, or he would go to the synagogue and read the Megillah. The question is like this, right? Why did Rabbi Akiva have to leave the Bet HaMidrash to read the Megillah? Why didn't he read it there in the Bet HaMidrash? What's the problem over there? In the yeshiva, right? Why can't you read it there? So it shows you, right, that there's a mitzvah, Berov Am, Hadat HaMelech. So what does that mean? That it's a mitzvah to go to, when you hear the Megillah, to go to a minyan, with a lot of people. This is the proper way to do, Not just, a small group in the Bet HaMidrash, few guys, a few rabbis. That's not the best way to do. The proper way to do is go, with a big minyan, with a lot of people. Right? That's the reason why Rabbi Akiva did that. He left the Bet HaMidrash in order that he should be able to read it with a big kehillah, with a big kahal, a big jamat. Right? That's right. That's the way he wanted to do it. So he left the Bet HaMidrash just for those two mitzvot. So you see, right, how important it is to hear the Megillah. So everybody's obligated to hear the Megillah, right? Men, women, right? Whatever. It doesn't make any difference. Right? They say even bring the children, bring the children also. You know what I mean? But only the ones who are not going to bother you, But if they're going to make a lot of noise and bother people, leave them at home. Better to leave them, right? Because they're gonna hold back the mitzvah from the people, from the keilah. So we don't want that. You know what I mean? Only a child who can, you can control him. You know what I mean? You can control this kid. Otherwise, he's gonna go run around, make a balagan. One word you don't hear from the Megillah, because the child was running around. That's it. You lost the mitzvah. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful with that. You got to make sure, right, that it's quiet when you're reading the Megillah. That's why, Maran Rav Ovadia Shalom, my rabbi, when they would read the Megillah in his Minyan, he would tell they would tell the kids, up, don't make any noise, right? When we're reading the Megillah, don't go don't do all these things. We'll give you time to do this after the Megillah is over. When they finish, now you can go and scream, and make noise. But if you're making noise all the time when we're reading, we're not going to be able to hear the Megillah like this. So he used to tell them, nobody say nothing, and they would announce it. The Gabbai would say, to people, to the kids, be quiet. And they knew, when they came to the Minyan, they knew, right? They're not allowed to make noise when they're reading the Megillah. Everything was quiet, nice, peaceful. That's the best way to do it, to read the Megillah in a nice silence, right? There's also another question, which comes up in halakha. So it's something interesting, which is, are you allowed to read the Megillah with a microphone? You hear this, right? It's not Shabbat, right? It's not Shabbat, so there's no problem with Shabbat. So this is the question, I'll tell you honestly, right? The emet. I have to tell you the emet. That Maran Rav Ovadia Shalom, he used to read the Megillah with a microphone when he got older, because he didn't have strength to read very loud. You know what I mean? So he used to read with a microphone. I remember one time, I saw, right, in Yechavadat, which is the big yeshiva, the big synagogue there, right, which belongs to, the son of Maran. So one time he came over there, Maran, to read the Megillah. It's a big shul, it's a nice large one, like 71st Avenue, like that one, it's like that. Big shul, maybe even bigger. So he came over there, Maran, they put the microphone, and he read the Megillah with the microphone. I was listening, I was like looking, I was like, oh. So why did they do it this way with the microphone? Because his voice wasn't strong enough, for the whole big shul to hear him. So there was no other way to do it with Maran reading like this. The truth is, it's not so pashut to read with a microphone the Megillah, and I'll tell you why. There is a machloket and a poskim about this. There is two different opinions, but the ones who say that it's no good. Why they say it's no good? Because they say, when you put your mouth into the microphone and it comes out of the speaker, right? This is not your real voice. This is electric voice, that's generated by the electricity. This is not your real voice. So it sounds like you, but it's not really you, that voice coming out of the speaker. That's an electric vibration that's going on there. You understand what I'm saying? This is that's what they say. You cannot be able to say it. Where they bring, by the way, the source for this? Where's the source for this? Because it says right in the Gemara regarding the mitzvah of shofar. Right? This is something interesting, right? So here also, right, the shofar. Can you do a shofar with a microphone? Nobody does that, right? It's Rosh Hashanah. You're not allowed to do anyway. But I'm saying, the thing is like this. The problem is, it says in the Gemara that if you hear the shofar, right, even though the person is far away, it's okay. If you hear it, it's okay. It's good. But the problem is, what about if you're hearing the echo of the shofar? This is no good. You understand what I'm saying? The echo of the shofar. So sometimes, let's say, I'll give you an example, right? You go into a cave, right? Me'ara. Right? And over there's an echo, So when you blow the shofar, it's like, it goes, echo, like a reverb, So that's not the real sound of the shofar, the echo. So if you're hearing the echo, it's no good. That's not the real shofar. The shofar is the original sound, the mekori. So therefore, the Gemara says, if you hear the echo of the shofar, that's not good. So that's what they say, here also. When you're hearing the microphone, with the Megillah, it's like you're hearing the echo of the person. It's not really his voice. You understand? It's pretty interesting. That's one opinion. There's also another opinion, Ramosha Feinstein alav shalom. He writes, that lichora, it's okay, it's okay to hear the Megillah with a microphone. He says it's okay. Why? So he has a nice chidush over there. He was a big gaon. He was a big chacham, Ramosha Feinstein. Big head. So he says like this. He says lichora, apparently, right, to hear it from the microphone is okay. Why? Because he says, even though, okay, you can tell me that's not his real voice, it's just electric, whatever, coming out of the speaker. But he says, since when you say, right, something, it comes out right away from the speaker, there's no delay, it's right away. So he says it can be considered to be like an extension of his voice. This is the way he looks at it, very interesting. Very interesting idea, So he says it's not like the shofar with the echo. Why? Because the echo was like, it's like a delay, But this one comes out right away. Chak! There's no delay. So he says, since it's coming out right away when he says something, no delay, so he says, it can be considered his voice, that microphone. That's what he says. Interesting idea. Right? So it could be that Maran, Rav Ovadia alav shalom, when he was coming to read, the Megillah with the microphone, he was relying on this opinion, Ramosha Feinstein. Maybe he accepted it. Maybe he thought it was correct. But here's the thing, something interesting about this, which is that he writes in the book like this, Maran Rav Ovadia alav shalom. He says in the Chazon Ovadia and many other books also, he writes like this. If they're reading the Megillah with a microphone, he says, if you're close enough to the reader, Baal Koreh, right, to hear him anyway without the microphone, then you are Yotzei Dechovah. You fulfill your obligation. Because you're close enough to hear him anyway without the microphone. You're not too far away. So, okay, in a case like that, I can understand maybe, right? But the thing is that the truth is that in Ezrat Nashim over there in Yechav right, where I told you, right, I saw the rabbi reading with a microphone, where the ladies were sitting, it was very far, and they're not going to hear him without the microphone. You know what I mean? So I don't think that really applies in this case, in a big shul like that. They're not going to hear him anyway. So bottom line is like this, right? That I think that Maran, he read that with a microphone because he had no choice. What does that mean? He had no choice because he wasn't strong enough, to read without a microphone. His voice wasn't strong enough. He was too old, 90-year-old man. How's he going to read for the whole shul? Big shul, big synagogue. Like 71st Avenue, right? Like big one like this, Or the Georgian shul, big shul. It's too big. The truth is it was even bigger than the Georgian shul. So, therefore, right, what should we do, Lamasseh? Don't use a microphone, for the Megillah. Because it's a machloket, Some say yes, some say no. You shouldn't make it, even if Moshe Feinstein, he agrees that even though, that there's a svara, there's a logic to say, that you can use a microphone, but he says don't do it. Why? He says because it's like you're bringing something new, like a new minhag, new moda, moda chadasha, something like this, It says no good. Don't start with new things. Keep it the traditional way. That's what he says, So therefore the rule is like this, that bemet we shouldn't use the microphone for the Megillah. Try to avoid this at all costs. The only way, I can tell you, right, that they can use it is if there's no choice. You know what I mean? Meaning what? That, the reader is not strong enough, to read, without the microphone. So there you have no choice, so you can rely on the lenient opinion. You know what I mean? But if not that, right, like a shul like this, you don't need it, right? You hear every word people say. That's why, people go over there and in the back, they read, they talk on the phone, it bothers me. You know why? Because I hear every word that they're saying. That's why. I hear everything. That's why I tell them, please, don't talk over there. Because I can't concentrate. That's the thing, So in a small shul like this, you hear everything. You don't need a microphone. You know what I mean? Only in a big shul, when the reader is weak, he cannot, that, okay, maybe there's a way to justify that, But otherwise, no, you should not use a microphone. I try to go the traditional way. אוקיי, ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנן השומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא ולעזור ישראל, לפיך הכיר בא להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.